Hello and welcome to Heading North. This week we're going to dive into the differences between day hiking and through hiking and some of the things that you need to know for each, some of the gear that you need to have with you, etc. My name's Nick, I'm your host, and if you like anything you hear in this episode, make sure you share us on social media or give us a like and a review on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Diving right into day hiking, I found the term day hiking is very robust. It could mean a simple hour hike on a well maintained trail near your home, or it can also mean a dawn till dusk hike that brings the hiker far from the comforts of civilization and back. Generally, day hiking is where a person or group of people embark on a hike that is either an out and back or a loop that does not require more than one day of hiking or overnight camping. So, conversely to through hiking, and we'll get to through hiking, you're not camping overnight. Everything's done within a day, hence day hiking. I personally enjoy doing a lot of day hikes as I am in the workforce and don't necessarily have a lot of time to get out on these longer treks. Day hikes provide for me a way in order to get out into nature and to get some steps in out on the trail without having to do those or have those overnights. I enjoy finding a number of mid-length trails to try and conquer in one day. Here's where 1 to 3 mile hikes really shine. If you can move quickly on the trail, 4.5 to 5 miles hikes may be added as well. So when it comes to finding new trails for day hiking, there's quite a few different ways. A large number of trails can be found on forums like Trail Groove or apps like All Trails or Gaia GPS. Best of all is hearing about a less known trail from friends or other hikers. I personally can say that I found and would not have found without the help of an individual, not an app or website, but I found the unimpressive Overlook, which, contrary to its name, is extremely impressive and really makes you feel like you're kind of nestled into the mountains, even though we don't necessarily have any high ranging mountains here in northern Minnesota. Forums are very well established and content filled places to find hiking trails. Most well established forums are easy enough to navigate and have large communities to pull information from. I recommend Trail Groove, Backpack Light, and Trail Space if you are looking for forums on there. If you guys actually go over to our blog space, I'm going to be talking about a lot of different apps as well as different forums and websites and stuff like that throughout this episode. So if you guys really want to see this, this is based off of a blog post that I put out on August 10th. So, excuse me, July 10th, and that's day hiking versus through hiking. So if you go to headingnorthpodcast.com/blog, you'll be able to check this post out and get a lot of these links that I'm going to be talking about. That being said, let's go into the navigation side of finding new trails. And I think because I placed this here with the day hiking stuff, I want to be clear, a lot of through hikes can be found in the same exact ways. So just remember that when we get later in the episode and start talking about through hiking. So newer than forums, we have the navigation apps like Gaia GPS and All Trails. And what I had just found out recently in purchasing my Garmin was Strava, Strava, is also another great app. For a deeper dive into navigation software, I would recommend listening to episode number 18, The Modern Wayfinder, as a rudimentary explanation. But the user logs a hike via GPS on one of these apps, then that hike is saved and can be seen by others looking to hike that same area. Now, each of these don't necessarily have everything. It is very much based on the users and what the users make available through their hikes and what they log. But in a lot of heavily hiked areas or more popular areas, you will have the opportunity to see a lot of different trails and routes that have been set by others in your area. I know I'm working diligently to make sure that I track all of my hikes on All Trails as well as Strava throughout the area. That way, visitors to this area can enjoy the outdoors and find these trails as well. And as I was saying at the beginning of this section here, word of mouth is, in my opinion, the best way to find new trails. It's in doing so, you find a lot of trails that many other people don't know about, and also it kind of makes the hunt a little bit more fun and, well, just enjoyable. Most times the trails you hear about are one of the same to those found on the forums and apps, but every once in a while you will hear about a secret trail or at least one that is not well known. hence unimpressive overlook for myself. It is important to choose the correct trail and condition for your group in person. So, depending on what your skill level is or what your group skill level, that's really going to be where you want to decide what hike you do. Now, for that skill level, I would highly recommend maybe not through hiking for your first few hikes, just until you get your body prepared for what it is and you get a little bit better understanding of what you need to do and have with you on the trail. If you are new to hiking, I would recommend a 1 to 3 mile hike and make sure that hike's on a well-maintained trail, especially one that is marked properly. Because even with using the apps, it can be easy to get lost, and you want to make sure that you have a well-marked trail that you're going to be on. For those more experienced hikers, longer hikes with more technical trails may be in line. So really, it's going to be based off of what you feel comfortable with and what your skill level you achieve as you are getting out and hiking. But as you get more experience, this is where you will start seeing what you are going to be able to do for through hikes. Now, as far as some gear that you're going to need for day hiking, I've prepared a list, and this list is also on the blog post, Day Hiking versus Through Hiking, just in case you want to look back on this. But there's also a checklist that you guys can get on the website. Just check that out. But when it comes to gear, when you're day hiking, the biggest thing is, especially with clothing, is to wear the proper clothing and have the proper equipment with you. And second, make sure that you use that equipment and have that equipment so you can enjoy the day hike. There's no such thing necessarily as bad weather, just unsuitable clothing. That was said by Alfred Wainwright in the book Coast to Coast and has been used pretty regularly, from what I understand, out here in the northern Midwest. So here's a list of clothes if you are planning to embark on your day hike. When it comes to footwear, footwear is extremely important. I was just recently on a hike with a couple gals that I met along the way up in Ontario. So I did Sleeping Giant Provincial Park in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And we were talking about footwear and the proper footwear. And it really is astonishing to see how many people wear different things on the trail. And many are fine depending on what you are doing. But you're going to want, for most day hikes and stuff like that, you're going to want some type of hiking shoe or a trail running shoe. You can also use jogging shoes and stuff like that, depending on trail conditions. When you are wearing trail running shoes or sneakers or tennies, as my girlfriend calls them, you are going to want to make sure that it's not going to be too crazy wet, because your feet and shoes could get destroyed with mud and other puddles and other issues like that. Now, now to continue on the trend of footwear, rather. Now to continue on the Now, to continue on the trend of footwear, you want to make sure you have rugged or some other type of hiking sock. I have worn some workout socks, some stuff that I wear for running, and those are fine. But you want to make sure that your socks are going to stay dry and keep your feet comfortable and have enough cushion. That way, you don't get blisters. You're also going to want to wear some type of hiking pants or shorts. Pretty much sporty or quick dry material. So when I say hiking pants or shorts, it really could entail a lot. You could even wear gym shorts depending on the weather. Now you're also going to want, and same too with material, hiking shirt or some type of base layer. So a base layer being like that fleece or like a neoprene or merino shirt, not neoprene, but a synthetic shirt is going to be the best for you to have that. And this is your base layer or your first layer that you're going to have for your day hike. Then you're going to want to make sure you bring along a rain jacket or a windbreaker. Generally, if I'm bringing a rain jacket, I'm not going to also bring a windbreaker because it does that job as well. And then you're going to want some type of down or synthetic jacket depending on what time of year you are hiking. You can plug and play any of these depending on temperature and trail condition, but I'd recommend having each if you plan to do a lot of hiking this summer or into the fall season. Just remember, it is at most times better to pack extra when it comes to clothing. You can always take stuff off, but you can't necessarily put it on if you don't have it. So, given the nature of a day hike, the equipment you will need for some hikes will be very similar to what you would use on a longer hike, but there are some differences, and we'll get into that as we talk more about through hiking. So, for that, some gear to have, your 10 essentials, as I always call them, would be your day pack, a water bottle or container, and make sure you have enough water to get through the amount of hiking you're doing. You're going to also want hiking boots, a first aid kit, food as needed for a length of hike. And when I say that, I mean you may not need as much food for a 2 mile hike, or you could be going all day and need to make sure you pack multiple meals. Then you're also going to want some type of multi-tool or pocket knife and a navigation device. I usually have my phone with me as well as a compass and map. And then you're also going to want bug spray and sunscreen. This is extremely important in most conditions, especially when you are in the Pacific Northwest, the Northeast, or the Midwest. You're also going to want a rain jacket or windbreaker. Again, that's plug and play depending on the weather. When in doubt, get the rain jacket. So if you are just building up your gear, because you can use that as both. And then you also want weather appropriate clothing. So that's my 10 essentials for day hiking. And then I also have a kind of an optional list. And again, you can find this entire list on our blogs at headingnorthpodcast.com/blog, but both of these lists are downloadable for you. Just look for that in the blog posts. So anyway, back what I was saying, we have the optional list outside of our essential 10, and those are as followed, and that's sunglasses, a hat, lip balm, matches or a lighter, some type of fire source, and then you're going to want possibly a whistle. That way, if you get lost, you can have a way for a long distance sound for people to be able to find you. Also, possibly a camera or binoculars, a field guide headlamp, trekking poles, and a gear repair kit. Now, any of these can be added in depending on what your hike entails. So let's say you're going to be in a very sun or an open trail where the sun's going to be beating on you. You might want a hat as well as sunglasses. Lip balm for those colder times as we're getting into fall or early spring. Matches or a lighter if you do plan on cooking a meal throughout your hike. And then a whistle. This one comes on many new hiking backpacks right on that clip that goes across your chest. But a whistle might actually be a good thing to have with you at all times, just because it does make it so that you can call for help and hopefully someone hears you. It also is a good, very loud noise-making item in case you are in areas where there are predators like bears. Camera or binoculars really is up to you. It all depends on how much weight you want to bring with you. Most people have a camera in their pocket now, and a very good one with your smartphones. So really that is up to you. Binoculars are a great thing to have if you're going to have a lot of really cool views or a lot of awesome wildlife in the area. And then the field guide, headlamp, trekking poles, and all that really depends on the intensity of your hike and the time of day that you are hiking. Over. In the US, through hiking is very closely related to trails like the Appalachian Trail on the East Coast or the Pacific Crest Trail or even the Continental Divide Trail. Through hikes are the act of hiking a long distance or on a trail for a long distance, and these hikes often take days, weeks, or months to complete. The Appalachian Trail, or the AT, is my personal favorite through hike. Near me, there is also the Superior Hiking Trail, or the SHT. If you go to the Heading North podcast store, I actually have a shirt that says SHT. I like it because it kind of seems like a curse word, but it's not because it is a trail name, and all of the proceeds that come from that shirt do go to the Superior Hiking Trail Association. So check that out. Again, sorry for my personal plugs on a lot of these episodes, but these types of hikes often require an immense amount of planning and at times ability. Through hiking is very different from day hiking. I am not saying that to defer anyone from attempting a through hike, but to ensure anyone who tries is aware of the challenges that come from it. As I stated before, through hiking requires a good amount of planning. This is not only to ensure you get through the hike, but to get through that hike safely and not starving. So when it comes to through hiking gear, you do have that essential 10, and it does change not entirely, but quite a bit from a day hiking gear list. Gear for these types of hikes vary depending on distance, terrain, and other condition. They have many similarities, as I was saying, but do have a lot of extra differences, and you want to make sure you prepare extras for things like batteries, food, and other items depending on the length of your hike. On most through hikes, there are these 10 essentials to have, and there are also a few near essentials, which we'll talk to after this initial list. These are items you could, in a sense, live without on the trail, but will make your time easier and more enjoyable. I personally enjoy having all 15 weight permitting, so let's go into that list and then you guys can kind of decide from there. So for your essential 10, you're going to want a shelter and some type of pack. So unlike a day pack, you're going to need to be able to carry a lot of weight and make sure that you can do it comfortably and not in any way that'll damage your body. You're also going to need a sleeping bag and sleeping pad and clothing. So depending on how many days, if you're going out and back, you may only need one pair of clothing and a couple pairs of socks and underwear, or you could need enough clothing to get you through a month or even longer. Then you're also going to want footwear for off and on the trail. So this is really where you're going to want a good pair of hiking boots or trail running shoes. And then you're also going to want maybe a pair of flip-flops, sandals, or slippers for when you're in your campsite. That way you can give your foot a rest and be comfortable while you're out hanging out in your campsite. Now, you're also going to want to bring with you some type of water purification device when you're on these trails. There is not necessarily a guarantee that you will find a good amount of water, so fresh water. So you're going to need a way to purify and have water to drink. And then you're also going to want stuff sacks. This is going to be an item that will compress and stuff a lot of your gear and clothing into smaller pouches. And then you're also going to want a guidebook and maps. So, as compared to this being on one of the extras on the 10 essentials for day hiking, for through hiking, you really want to make sure you have as much information in order to find your way through the area you're in. And I'm going to go ahead and add on to this as a dash here, but you're also going to want a compass with you for this. You can trust the GPS, you can trust your phone, but batteries do die. So it's important that you have stuff when you are this far away from civilization. And then as far as number 10 for your essentials, you're going to want first aid and hygiene items. So this could be Band-Aids, packages, or excuse me, bandages, as well as medications or anything like that, but also toothpaste, toothbrush, and stuff like that. And now the near essentials. So these 5 would be a knife or multi-tool, hiking poles, stove for cooking, a headlamp, and any type of luxury items like electronics or a book. Now, like I said, I like to bring these 5 as well and have my essential 15 with me, especially when you're looking at a knife or multi-tool and a stove and cookware. Most through hikes, you are going to need those items. Now, planning your through hike is going to be much different than a day hike. A day hike, you can really hop on any of those apps or forums and figure out where you're going and go. Whereas a day hike or a through hike is going to require immense amounts more planning. These long distance hikes are just as much about where you hike as why and how you hike. So, deciding where to hike will depend on your fitness ability and willingness to rough it. For most experienced day hikers, a long distance through hike is well within their grasp. The first step to your trip is the hike itself. I will always be a proponent of trails like the Appalachian Trail PCT or the CDT, but these trails take a considerable amount of time. We're talking months. So this was something that very easily fit in my lifestyle when just finishing school and embarking on a large journey, but not now while I have a full-time job and people at home that I want to spend time with. So in your planning, you're really going to want to decide where you go. Allowing myself to spend 5+ months exploring the Atlantic coastlines and Appalachian Mountains was an amazing experience, but completely out of the option as I am 32 and have the aforementioned job and other things to keep me home. So for this part in my life, looking at smaller through hikes is what is best. Hikes like the SHT or the Spirit Hiking Trail are achievable in a shorter amount of time and don't take me anywhere near as far from the starting point as any of those other trails. So really the question when you're picking your hike is, where do I want to go and how much time am I able and or want to spend on the trail? Then with through hiking, you also really need to find your why. You need to find any way possible to ensure that you are going to continue putting one foot in front of the other and completing your. So really ask yourself, why do I want to hike this trail? Many times on the AT, people would ask me why I was hiking it. My answer right from the beginning was so that I could finally finish something. That was a big step in my life at that point. So it was really something that drove me. Hiking can be very tough, as I was saying, and long treks followed by nights in a tent, followed by inclement weather, you need a reason to help move yourself forward. Finding Nemo was still fresh in my mind as I pushed through my hike. Just Keep Swimming by Dory, or as Dory said, frequently popped in my head on rougher days, and it reminded me to keep one foot in front of the other and to keep pressing on. Now, in your planning, you need to make sure that you do the work. It's time for a lot of research, and you want to find weather information, topographical information, and any other information on shelters, post offices, and other places to either camp, bunk, or get provisions. This can prove to be a very tedious task, so I would make sure that you really spend ample time on it. When through hiking, you will need to reload on provisions because you can't really carry all that stuff with you depending on how far you're going, such as food, water, and clothing. Many hikers mail these items to themselves at checkpoints along the way or have a friend to send those to you. And then others plan to stop at grocery stores or outfitters along the way. Things like these all play into how you plan the through hike and how much work you put into that planning. Now, when it comes to planning the hike itself, You know where your checkpoints and refill stations are. You even know about a cool campsite that not many people know about. Now we need to figure out how and when we're going to get there. Remember that when it comes to hiking, not all plans work. So be prepared to get creative while on the trail as well. For a through hiker, I would not only pack a GPS device, but also set a set of maps and a compass for that reason, because things can always go wrong. And then knowing how to use each of those items is going to be huge for your planning and ability to make sure that you are prepared. Listen to episode number 18 again of the episode for Modern Wayfinder if you need some or a rudimentary tutorial on how to use compasses and GPS devices. Just have that there for you guys in case you are planning this and want to make sure that you have your skills honed. So, in through hiking, once you've made all of your preparations, you've done all the work, you also need to be prepared to put your life on hold. Day hikes offer the ability to take a day off or enjoy a weekend to hike, but this is a much harder, if not impossible, thing to do on through hiking. You are going to have to put your life on hold. You're not going to be able to work. You aren't going to have those contacts with your friends, family, and loved ones. So, to successfully complete a through hike, you will need to either be between jobs on a break from your job or some level of sabbatical from work or school in order to take take the time necessary for your longer adventures, or be prepared to take some vacation time in order to be able to complete one of these hikes. So, on top of the apparent time constraints, your ability to communicate with your friends and loved ones, as I was saying, becomes very limited. You are on the trail in a lot of places that don't have cell phone signal or a place to charge your phone in general. So I found that sending letters with clear directions of where to send responding letters, such as a future post office or outpost, is a great way to have some level of communication. But on your day-to-day basis, you aren't going to necessarily have that communication. So, as a short summary to sum up this entire episode, there's minimal comparison between day and through hiking, but both require their own levels of planning. So, I do strongly recommend you guys check out our blog post at headingnorthpodcast.com/blog and look for day hiking versus through hiking to get all the information that I gave today. And I really implore you guys to use that information, like the hiking checklists, as well as going over to listen to episode number 18, The Modern Wayfinder, to understand how to use navigation devices and use all of those to your advantages while you are either day hiking or through hiking. As a whole, I would really like to thank everyone for listening to this week's episode. Music in this episode was brought to you by Asylum Music and Media Works. And if you want to hear more from Heading North Podcast, go to headingnorthpodcast.com. If you want to support what it is we do here, go to patreon.com/Heading North Podcast, or check out the Heading North Podcast shop at headingnorthpodcast.com/shop for awesome merchandise like the t-shirt that you can see me wearing here, or a coffee mug, or any of the other items that give back to the community for hikers and the outdoors. And if you guys really want to support this show and help us grow, make sure you like and review this episode or the show itself on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week.